Hello, everybody. It's me. And it's like, I know it's not 6 o'clock. It's not Friday. And I'm here. And you're not. And this is a pre recorded, unrehearsed show because I'm so busy that it is impossible to keep a normalized kind of schedule. I will inform those who would be interested that the move to Ohio continues, but it requires a tremendous number of building blocks. And you can't just to do what I'm basically trying to do, which is basically buy a house and in the month and a half move into it when I'm 1,200 miles away. No. So that's what I'm trying to do. Thank you, Christopher Milton Sr. And it is my birthday today. So that's another reason why I'm doing the show today and not tomorrow, is because I like to go unnoticed, except on my birthday. And I remember the last time I did a birthday podcast, I did a striptease. No, I didn't. No. Don't worry. I see the numbers just drop in the viewership. Don't worry. I'm not going to do that kind of shit. But yeah, this will be 66 for me. So how about that? I'm closer to 70 than I am to 60. I said the same thing when I was closer to 60 than I was to 50. I never said anything else before that, though, in all seriousness. Like when I turned 30, I didn't say, well, I'm closer to 35 now than I am to, 26. It's like, no, I didn't. It's only when you get older. All I know is that I have seven stomachs. Hammer time. That's what I know. I got a big heart and 7 stomachs and very limited brain capacity. That's what makes me a cow. Oh, we're Nat King Coling? Is that what we're doing, Rick? I'm getting my kicks at age 66. Yeah. Oh, I should have turned it on like this. Sorry about that. So, how is everybody doing? I do want to fill you in on what's going on because it's crazy stuff. I mean, to put it into perspective, you got to have a house inspected, get the inspection approved, have the people who own the house correct what is agreed to that's wrong with it. Then you have to go through the contractual process of buying the home. And that means that you have to go through a full closing and all of that stuff. You have to do walkthroughs through the home. And that's why I went up there about a week ago, just so I could walk through it so that I would be able to, get a better idea from a furnishing perspective. So what you're doing is you're actually, what I'm doing, not what you're doing. I don't know what the hell you're doing. I don't even know what I'm doing. What it amounts to is I have to buy a car because I can't drive from Florida up to Ohio. My back is not going to allow me to do that. 3 consecutive days of driving for like 6 hours. No. And so the plans that have to be made, Topaz is going to be transported up. Roxanne is going to be flying up separately from me a week after I get there, and I'll be flying into the beautiful Canton Akron Airport. As soon as I get off the plane, the first thing I have to do is go to the car dealership and purchase the car. Is this fucking crazy? I'm going to Uber to a car dealership to buy an automobile. It's nuts. But before I can do any of that, I have to have home insurance. I've got to have car insurance, and I can't get car insurance unless I have a VIN number, which means I have to buy the car first and then bundle the insurance. Oh, and the fun is just beginning. You got to furnish the house. You got to put enough furniture in there so that when you get there, you can at least, in some measure, live in it. So you've got to have beds. You've got to have sofa and chairs. And I'm not even going to have fucking television, man. I got to set up the whole Wi-Fi thing, got to set up the television and oh. And then 3 days after I get there, Topaz arrives. So I got to have his food ready for him, his doggy bowl for food, doggy water bowl, his doggy crate that he sleeps in. Quit complaining. And then I got to get housewares for the house. You got to have knives and forks and things that you eat with because we're not cavemen. We don't eat with our hands. Well, at least I don't. Man. You might as well face it, Rick. You're addicted to Moohead, another dead musical performer. Hello, this is Robert Palmer. And whenever I was alive, I used to listen to Moohead Radio. No, Topaz the wolf is not driving. He is being transported, chauffeured, in essence. Actually, it's a doggy transport company. Some really interesting people. And they're going to transport him along with a few other dogs. And they drive dogs to destinations. It's really interesting. Amazing what you can find out when you research stuff. I don't mean analytically. I don't give a shit about that. I mean, trying to get all this done in a month and a half is just, and I haven't even so much as touched on the fact that yesterday, my refrigerator here in Florida just died. It was 23 years old, you know? It almost lived as long as Marilyn Monroe. It just died. So I had to order something at Home Depot. But what I ordered turned out to be too big. It didn't fit in the little minuscule spot that I realized was minuscule. Fortunately, I canceled that order before they delivered it and got a new one that will fit. And it's a piece of shit Whirlpool refrigerator that I know the second they put it in, it's going to leak all over the floor while I'm in Ohio. But, you know, what are you going to do? It's now or never. I just feel like I am on the road to destiny. Just nuts. You know, it's a good question. Without an opposable thumb, it's asking too much for Topaz to tip, Rick. And what percentage does a dog? I mean, dogs are bribed easily. If they give him doggy treats on the trip, then he's going to go berserk because, you know, he's got a little bank account and I fill it up with, you know. The problem is if it's cash, how is he going to hand it over? I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet, but I'm working on it. So all of these things have to happen and in a month and a half's time. So that's the reason why I've been like totally preoccupied with things and crazy stuff. But what I wanted to really talk to you about today is just a couple of sports things that make me shake my big cow head. I'm reading Terry Pluto, which I should know better by now. And this bold headline, same old Browns or reason to be excited. You know, do they recycle these fucking stories or is it just me? There is nothing to be excited about. No reason for excitement. Same old Browns. How could they be any different? Somebody explain this to me, please. Same old Browns. Do you realize that we've been sitting here and what was supposed to be the Baker Mayfield build? We're starting with the foundation. We finally got ourselves the number one quarterback of the draft and we used it on Mr. Midget. And so for the second time, we used a first round draft pick and a quarterback for Mr. Midget. So Mini Me comes from Oklahoma and becomes a brash asshole in public to people. including women. Oh, yes. Let's not forget the pickups by the Cheesecake Factory, the women who blew him. Oh, we're not supposed to talk about that because he's Baker. He's Baker. Well, it happened. All right. Now, I'm not telling you that the women who did it were savory people, but I'm not going to tell you that the women who met our quarterback now on Facebook are any more savory. Money talks, bullshit walks. Same old Browns. So how did we build with Baker Mayfield? We didn't. We constantly pieced together a team with part-time players. Part-time players. We don't home grow them and keep them now, do we? We just grab from all over, you know? And what we grab is OBJ and shit like that. Stuff that can't possibly work. And I'm supposed to be excited? Are we the same old Browns? Well, of course we are. Because now we're supposed to be building with a new quarterback. And we don't have receivers for him. I mean, it's the same. So, but this time we're giving the illusion with guys like Goodwin and people who are old, and you know, Elijah Moore, who is just another possession receiver, basically. We're pretending like, oh, we're getting new. We're really working around the quarterback now. Yeah, Watson's the future of this team. But that's just replacing Mayfield's name with Watson. Let's be honest about it. How are we really building this? We're not. We're not. We just make it up as we go along due to analytics. And so we end up making these bizarre picks, and nobody pays attention to the people we drafted the past few years who aren't even good enough to play. You know, you're not going to hear dick about Greedy Williams, are you? You're never going to hear about him again because, oh, I'm excited about the Browns. People who want to be excited, you know, they either have thyroid problems or they're Browns fans. That's what it comes down to. And I can't for the life of me understand what there is to be excited about. 3 of the 4 first games we're playing against divisional foes. And if we don't come out looking decent after that, everybody's going to know we're the worst team in the division. Everyone's going to know you same old Browns. And it's like, you can't expect them to be anything else. They are the same old Browns. As long as Haslam's there, they're the same old Browns. As long as we keep going with DePodesta and analytics, we're the same old Browns. As long as we keep missing on draft picks, we're the same old Browns. As long as we keep trying to hit the home run and we refuse to populate the roster with useful players, well, we're the same old Browns. Why are the people that we get, like OBJ, always injured when they come here and we expect them to somehow defy their history and be healthy? I don't know. I don't know. So this is what we're supposed to be happy about. All right. Last year was Amari Cooper. Never mind that we didn't have a quarterback to throw to him. And now it's Darius Smith, who is crippled for the end of last season with a bad knee bruise, they're saying, that only gave him 1/2 or whatever a sack in the last half of the season. And you know, he's a former All-Pro. Former is always a big word on our resume of our players. Former this, former that. I can't get excited until I see somebody actually do something. Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney is a former number 1 pick. I don't want to fucking hear about it. By the time they get here, they're injury prone. And they always get hurt. And this is right, Rick George. This is absolutely right. We could have had all these people. Could have had Allen, could have had Watson, could have had Jackson. We could have had all kinds of people. Could have had Carson Wentz. We could have had all kinds of people. I wouldn't want Carson Wentz. That would have been Browns-esque. Oh, we bypassed a lot of talent at the position because we don't know how to draft. So the reason for hope is that we got a couple of big name players, Amari Cooper last year and Zadarius Smith this year. That's what we're supposed to go, whoopee. I mean, does anyone expect Zadarius Smith? Why do you think a team would trade him for mid-level draft choices? That's a bag of balls, folks. He got traded for a bag of balls. Do you really think that the Vikings said, we really think he's got a lot of kick left in him? I don't think so. But hope springs eternal amongst Browns fans. That's kind of the way it works. Why are we supposed to be excited? Because we brought in Jim Schwartz, which is legitimate, and Bubba Ventrone to fix the special teams. We already had a Bubba as the head coach. No. Bubba Ventrone was a good special teams player, and at least he will impart the need to have brain damage within 5 years of playing on special teams. He will accentuate that in practice, which is all well and good. There will be no zero contact practices if Bubba Ventrone had anything to say about it, to do with it. Oh, I hear that all the time. We didn't have the space, so we just traded him for a bag of balls. I hear that all the time. All the time. But it turns out that they weren't worth anything more than the draft picks that they got in return. We'll see. At this point, I'm the show me state, It's like, I'm not getting excited about anything, folks. Nothing. Not at all. I'm just going to sit and watch. During the off season, I keep my big fucking mouth shut, except occasionally on my birthday. And I say, we'll see how it unfolds. The fact that we didn't have any high draft picks, what big splash would the Browns make? And basically what people will say about the draft is, well, considering where they picked, they didn't do bad. That's a Browns draft. Because the guy who they got, nobody's sure about. Deshaun Watson. Nobody's really sure what he's going to be. But I can tell you this. They all want him to suck. The media wants him to suck and fail. The owners want him to suck and fail. That's a fact. Now, here's the thing that really amazes me about sports. And it's all about Cleveland. And I can start speaking more personally about this kind of stuff because everybody knows that I grew up in Northeast Ohio and now I'm coming back for half the year. I like the area. I like the people. Some of the sports fans, I guess maybe it would be, there's no in between. Either you're Pollyanna, I know we're going to do it this year, or you're, it's going to be another fucking waste of my time. I'm just going to be hurt and crippled by it. Right? So Deshaun Watson will be the story if he's no good. If he's good, they'll just shrug and go, he's just one of many. How come you don't hear fucking shit about Francisco Lindor? That's what I want to know. And they go, well, you're changing up sports on us, Cal. You're senile. It's like, no. Thank you, Topaz. I'm being serious. Francisco Lindor was a star in Cleveland, remember? Except in the postseason. But the then Indians said, we're going to trade him and we're going to get rid of him. And who gets him for the long-term contract? Well, of course, the New York Mets. They have the $300 million payroll. The hedge fund thief. The guy who makes his money by inside trading, keeping all of the money except a slap on the wrist fine. And he's done it twice. Steve Cohen, that guy. He wouldn't know what would make a winning baseball team. He wouldn't even know a winning baseball team, even if it crawled in his ass. So that was the big name, Francisco Lindor. Now, if it were the other way around, and if the Cleveland Guardians, when of course they would never do this, gave an 11-year or whatever it was, 12-year contract to a guy like Francisco Lindor. I know we did for Jose Ramirez. We gave him a big extension, literally with their hands. Never mind. But they did give him a big contract, but not as big a contract as Jose would have gotten from a New York or one of the really well-funded teams in the league. But we let Lindor go. And the reason was the last season that he played in Cleveland, he sucked. And they saw something in him that they didn't like, because when they made the postseason, he disappeared. Kind of like Jared Allen. You know the guys who step up, and then you know the guys who consistently disappear. And Lindor, nothing in the postseason. Nothing. So he goes up in his first year, and he hits what some people would say was a respectable 270, but most of the season he was around 240, and this year he's at 228 batting average. Bronk is joining me. Hi, Bronk.
Hello.
Hi. So Lindor is hitting 228. He's hit 6 home runs, and he sucks the big moose. He sucks so bad. I saw that somebody made a comment about him, a guy who used to play for Cleveland. Do you remember Jason Kipnis?
Oh, God.
Did you know that he's still alive? Jason,
he is. Chicago bastard.
He made a comment.
Really?
I just want everybody to know that I've lost weight since I retired from Cleveland. Jason Kipnis was the absolute quintessential Indian.
He was. He totally was. The white people in Ohio loved him.
They loved him. He got dirty. He got his uniform dirty. And, he ends up getting hurt. He has a few good seasons. He was the modern equivalent of Rick Manning. I mean, he was the guy.
He was. People loved him.
And for no goddamn reason. The last 4 years, the guy could have barely cracked 220.
Correct.
But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. He was our Jason. So Jason Kipnis comes out and says, the New York Mets now, they've lost 16 of their last 22. The Mets.
Really?
With their $300 million payroll. Steve Cohen. What the fuck does he care? What the fuck does he care? He'll just illegally trade his way up and get more money that way. What does it matter? He will just throw the money away. It makes no difference to him. He takes treasure baths where he fills his bathtubs with cash. That's the kind of guy he is,
Oh.
Here's a part-time actor, Michael Proud. I went back to Ohio for a year after being gone for 18 years. I was planning my escape shortly after moving back. Thank God I got out again. Hope buying a pad in Ohio doesn't end up being a regret. Here's the deal. I'm not going up there for any other reason but for some dear friends of mine.
Oh.
And I value not what the city looks like, how old some things are. I got people in my life, and I want to be around some nice, good people. I live in a neighborhood down here that's like as sterile could be. It's behind gates you might like this kind of thing, Michael. I mean, you're out in California. I mean, you've got to see it out there. It's expensive as hell to live in California. It's expensive as hell down here in Florida. All the gated communities, all attached to country clubs, all the ladies going to their girlfriends or lady friends, the 60 and over, 70 and over retirement population, white, bright, not very polite, now has become the absolute hopeful destination of the Scott Bayos of the world. Okay.
God,
like
yeah.
I need that. Like I need hemorrhoids. All right. I have to pay higher property taxes now because a bunch of goddamn fucking lunatics are moving into my backyard. It's like, no. And every other house. Oh, I could put up a bigger flag than you. And it's like, you know what? I could wipe my dick off after I ejaculate on that flag. Please make that stop. I mean, since when did your patriotism get measured by a piece of cloth in the front of your house? Make that stop.
And the only jobs in your area are the jobs for the pool boy cleaners.
People who work here can't afford to live here. And that's why employment is such a problem. I'm sure it's the same way in California. You can't afford the prices. So how are you going, it's like, I'm traveling, 45 minutes one way, an hour and a half both ways. And I'm getting $16 or $14 or $13 an hour. I mean, it doesn't matter how you do the math. It doesn't work. But you see, for me, the people in Cleveland are real. You may not like all of them. And I shouldn't say just Cleveland. I mean, Northeast Ohio, where I grew up in Canton and the area, all surrounding the area.
Sure.
They're real people. The people down here are like just trying to cozy up to being around rich people and to pretend that they're rich people and that they're country club members and that who can buy the fanciest car. And now more money's coming in from, New York City and Boston and all of those areas. And almost all of it is politically driven.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because Ron DeSantis, who's the governor here in Florida, he's working out a new plan to create gulags down here for Jews and African Americans. So we got that going for us. It's a real clusterfuck. And, and so what is DeSantis doing? He's suing Disney. He's suing Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and since he started fucking with the big company, his presidential aspirations are going right down the toilet. And Donald Trump saying, thank you very much. That's it.
Should I give DeSantis an idea here that somebody thought of actually trying over here in England with migrants and immigrants? They actually had a plan where they were going to put a bunch of undocumented migrants that crossed the channel onto these dilapidated old cruise ships and let them live on that. Now, there's got to be plenty of dilapidated cruise ships in the Florida area. I could see DeSantis coming up with that plan. And
starvation, exciting and new. Come aboard. We're expecting Jews. We really need this. Michael is saying, that the winter. Yeah, well, I'm not being up there in the winter. I'm not so sold on that. I mean, right now my body is just like going down the shitter. But yeah, summer. It's a summer home, and it's a way to reacquaint myself not only with people but with where I grew up. And it isn't. And believe me, I understand that Ohio is not a blue state; it's a red state. But it's different down here. You just have to come down here.
Yeah, you're right.
This is really become a radical kind of thing, and it's really uncomfortable It really
Yeah.
is.
I mean,
But
Ohio may have Jim Jordan, but it doesn't have like nearly the sort of kudos and the right wing that Florida has. You know,
and it's growing, and they are through their communications trying to draw more of their kind down here, and I understand that. So
anyway, I want to have like Dwayne Stats wish you a happy birthday.
oh God,
He's about your only voice that's still alive, isn't he?
it would seem so.
I know that you're totally insignificant, Mr. Moohead, but I've got a card in front of me that says, "Happy birthday, Mr. Moohead in Florida." How big could you be if you're here in Florida and I don't know who in the fuck you are?
Oh God. I tuned in accidentally. I was skimming through channels and I ended up Major League Baseball package. I thought I had hit the Guardians game, but I knew it couldn't have been the Guardians game because I was awake. So it was like, I hear this,
and 2 outs in the third. And
oh no,
it's him.
It's him.
Oh man. Well, I when I don't prepare programs, I tend to go all over the place.
Well,
This is
I
not
got here
rehearsed.
late, so I don't know whether you talked about all of our signings from the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, I mean but that makes sense because they haven't won anything recently either. So that's perfect
I
for
mean, is
us.
that a good thing for us that we got these old Viking guys, or that they still have some game left in them?
No, I think that the Zedarius is probably peaked at 30 years of age. He might have a good season in him, but see, the bottom line is just like Baker had a good season in him.
Yep.
But you got to build on players who have back-to-back good seasons. If everybody was like Nick Chubb, it would be great, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, we get guys who are like, they got one more flash in the pan. Or worse yet, we get them, make a big deal, get a big name, Odell Beckham Jr., and it's like, my knee, and it's over. Just like that, it's all over. Oh, God. And you want to know, here's another thing about how I don't understand the excitement for the Cleveland Browns. This is actually a quote from Terry Pluto.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, it's not. No, it's not that. Could you imagine if it were during?
Oh God! Oh God! Oh God!
Terry Pluto said the Browns lost none of their best players. We lost John Johnson III and Jadeveon Clowney. So things are looking up. It's like, no, we've got to actually have good players. The fact is,
exactly.
We got John Johnson III in a trade, or as a free agent. We got Jadeveon Clowney, and that cost us money and prevented us from getting other players, and they turned out to suck. So the fact that they're gone now, you can try to spin that into a positive. But no, the real fans have had to watch those guys for the last couple of years, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah, that's a crazy comment to make. I mean, addition by subtraction is just a saying. It's not an actual reality thing. It doesn't actually happen.
So we have Dalvin Tomlinson, the former Viking. We have Juan Thornhill, and then we have Zedarius Smith. So then we have a guy named Ogbo the Clown. Ogbo Okoronkwo, and safety Rodney McLeod. I mean,
I think Rodney McLeod's more concerned about his media career. Every time I go on social media, he pops up on some NFL.com feed, making his opinion about something.
Yeah. And Jim, it's good to see you, Jim. If Zedarius is on terra firma and his knee is okay, I have no question. And like I said, at 30 years of age, he might have good season or two left in him. But you still have to be developing people at that position. And hopefully Jim Schwartz will help at least make some people give more effort than they're giving, or will have some input into which guys we should be drafting because of the effort that they put in. We can only hope. Ron Shane, thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
I mean, we've had so many interim players, that's what I call them, where they're like 29, 30, 31. They show up, they get their money, they might play a few games, they might, fart around for 10 games and get paid and then leave town. And we're all tired of that.
Yeah, and then get this, this is still the born again masturbator. Terry Pluto. I love this guy. Could you imagine if Deshaun Watson stood up and said, I was a masturbator. I masturbated feverishly, but I'm a born again man today. It's like, whoop, right out of town you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Terry's still here in Cleveland, man. Now I can say here because I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I might go to one of his book signings.
don't let him keep your pen.
no. I think wouldn't it be great if you could bring somebody with you, not you yourself, because you wouldn't want to do something like this, but somebody who had nothing to lose, who would just masturbate right on the cover of his book. I mean, that would just for a special signed edition. He could probably get money for that in an auction.
Damn it! You just caught me swallowing something.
Oh, whoa, Brock!
It nearly went up my nose.
So Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin. I mean, that doesn't overly excite me. All right, but this then from Terry Pluto. I'm still not convinced Deshaun Watson is the top 5 quarterback, and he has to say that. The reason he has to say that is because he's a born-again Christian. You see, he can't say that I think this guy's going to be really, really good, because the whole time he's been equivocating about this player. He's been saying, Browns can't go for this guy because he's got a troubled past, man. And then when the Browns get him and he makes it through and he, gets the suspension, it's like, boy, I don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. And then, of course, when he came back, he was out of sync. I was like, I don't know. I think this is a big mistake because of what he did to those women. And he's just, and this is a guy who used to fucking pound his pud, and God only knows where he did it. Oh, make it stop. Is he a top 5 quarterback? Well, I think he's going to be better than what we've had. So that's it. As far as Elijah Moore, Jim Giles is saying, yes, he is a good pickup. Well, I mean, he's better than Goodwin. Yeah, Goodwin is, and I agree. That's what he does now, is he catches about 17 passes a game, and then he gets hurt. He goes, my knee. Okay.
Sounds like Austin Carr. Right?
Austin Carr's famous line. So you put all of this together, and these players that we've gotten, the new defensive coordinator and the new special teams coordinator, and all wonderful stuff. But we're still staring at Kevin Stefanski's play calling ass. And I can't get that out of my head. Me and Jeff Lynn, we can't get it out of our head. It's like I seen the worst play calling that I could imagine. And we just got to do better. And, he's not going to do better. I mean, look at what's happened in the NBA here. And I know I'm shifting gears, but I didn't prepare for this program.
What has happened in the NBA?
Doc Rivers got fired for the 76ers. All right. Doc Rivers is gone. Right. And it's like, all right, so he's gonna take the blame. I get it. He fits the profile. He's black, and maybe he's seen some of his better days, but it's the 76ers, and that whole, what was it? What
The
did they?
process.
The
The process.
process. Sam Hinkie, the guy who developed the process. Nobody talks about him anymore because he's probably dead in a ditch somewhere from Philadelphia fans. You know, it's like, you lied to us, you bastard. And so now Doc Rivers is gone. And the second they gave that MVP to Embiid, you knew he'd shrivel up like a dick in a cold shower.
Wow.
As soon as he got into the important playoff games, and didn't he in game 7 just blow away in the wind?
Wow.
You can't, Jim, you can't be a Northcutt kind of guy with better hands. No. We called him drop cut for a reason, didn't we, Jim?
It was because his shoulder pads were so huge that they kept on getting in the way of the ball and they kept bouncing off of him. That's what the problem was.
That's like saying he's kind of like an effeminate John Wayne. You know, it's like, I don't think so.
That's not a thing, yeah.
I just love doing these ridiculous programs where I've not prepared anything. But yeah, with Stefanski there, I can't imagine. We'll be hanging around, 8 and 9, 7 and 10, 9 and 8. Yeah.
Stefanski, we all know his shitty play calling, weird play calling, and all that. But I think the real problem has been the defense on these teams, and as long as that's better, it'll probably override. It'll pick up the slack from any weird call that Stefanski might do, and he might be less desperate. I think a lot of that calling that he was doing was desperation calls. I mean, how many times did we not have the ball for 40 minutes in a stretch that we never got off the field? That's what killed us.
Now, it's actually, Rick, it's from process to regress to regrets. That's the 76ers organization. Now, the answer to your question, Jim, no, I'm going to remain in Florida for half the season. Well, I can still say the weather is wonderful here in the wintertime, and I think that's nice. But I'll be in Ohio the other 6 months of the year, enjoying myself in a different way. And so I get the best of both worlds. That's the theory.
Well, what you want to do is you want to stay up past hurricane season. So as long as you stay in Ohio, like past September.
I can look on my phone at my house blowing down.
Yeah, exactly.
Get one of those ring phones. Oh, there goes the tree in the front yard. Fucking ring things.
It's a lot better than actually being there when it happens, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
I remember the one year we had this guy. He used to look after our house. Yep. I forget his name now. He was a British guy. Very proper, And it was the year that was, the previous big storm that wiped out Punta Gorda, Florida. I forget the name of it, but it was comparable to what Ian was here more recently. Yep. And this guy called us up in the middle of the storm and he goes, "Hello." He goes, "Oh, you should see the wind blowing outside. It is just incredible. Oh, there goes a roof." I mean, this guy, it's like in a drawing room comedy. And it was like too much, too funny. And he was like, actually, I'm standing out here in the road, simply daring this. Just come at me, fun little cloud.
I could do that. I could do that for a month if you want. I'll fly out there.
Thank you, Michael. It was Hurricane Charlie, wasn't it? Yeah.
He was an engineer. Choo choo, Charlie was an engineer.
Oh no, it's good and plenty's. He loves them good and plenty's. I know. Love it, Moo. Ohio has to be better than Vermont. Now, Vermont had some. Also, I met some great people in Vermont. Vermont was an interesting area, and a beautiful state for in a lot of different ways. You had hills and some mountains, and you had farmland, and you had people who were real like massage therapists, and they were kind of like, no, I mean the
I
types,
know.
the
Legitimate
types of
things.
people
Yeah.
who were really into healing arts. They had that, and
Oh,
then
New Age people. Yes.
yeah,
New
they
Age
had
people.
that element there, but at the same time, they had morbidly obese, uneducated people too, which were great because my tax money up there when I owned a condominium up there all went to those people, so their fat little children could get laptops. It was wonderful. It was a great gift for all. And Bernie Sanders had his 3 homes, and everyone was happy.
Yeah.
Yep. One thing I feel bad about, one player, and that's Dearness Johnson. What did he ever do to deserve neglect?
Is he outside on a fishing boat in Delacroix now?
No. He signed a lousy $1.2 million, $250,000 guaranteed deal with the Jaguars. Now, I mean, for God's sakes, I mean, didn't
he's never going to see the field with them?
I don't understand. But I mean, this is a player who every time he was given an opportunity rose to the occasion in Cleveland.
Correct.
And then he'd never get another chance ever again. And what is it that what makes people of value? Did Dearness just work on a fishing boat for too long and he didn't have that big social media account and say all kinds of crazy shit? What is it that made him just neglected
Invisible.
by the league?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's, at any rate, that's that. I've spoken my piece there. I like headlines like, how Andrew Berry has used the trade market to help supercharge the Browns roster. It's like, if that's supercharging, it just reminds me more of the movie Super Bad. I don't understand. I mean, everybody wants to be really, positive, but so the whole thing I got started about with Kipnis was that he came out. He came out and said, "Hey, no." He came out.
That would be hilarious.
That was
if he was like
my uniform.
If Jason Kipnis came out as a drag queen LGBTQ, that would be the best thing in the world, I think.
Kipnis. He called out Francisco Lindor for not being a leader, a team leader. And they questioned him directly. And it was really, and you know what was amazing? He was being interviewed by the host of this podcast, AJ Pierzynski. Remember that asshole?
Oh, God.
The guy was the dirtiest player in baseball.
He's the Conrad Dobler of baseball.
He's got his own podcast now. And he has little trip cords and he trips his guests when they're not looking. And all that
over
shit.
The head with a baseball bat, all sorts of things. Yeah.
And so he was asked about the Mets. They have the largest payroll in the big leagues. And his quote was, all those veterans and no leadership. To which Pierzynski replied, you played with Lindor. Was he a leader? And Kipnis's response, I'll say it again, all those veterans and no leadership.
Oh, wow.
So that pretty well says that, It's a good thing he didn't say it about Jose Mesa, or else, Jose would just show up and throw at his head,
Put a gun to him, probably.
God almighty,
Kipnis.
So, but Kipnis was a great team leader, if you recall.
Oh, God. He was the Dave Duncan of that team, man. But remember people loving Dave Duncan back in the day, and he was like as worthless as Kipnis was.
You want to talk about worthless? This is an Eno character who's behind the plate. Do you know that until and I stopped following the stat. In his last 24 at bats a couple days ago, he was 0 for 24 with 19 strikeouts. How do you strike out 19 out of 24 times and be a lousy defensive catcher to boot? How's that possible?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think he would have enough coordination to actually put the bat on the ball. If he could put the glove on the ball, He should be able to put the bat on the ball.
I mean, it makes you wish for Roberto Perez.
Yeah.
He can't catch, he can't hit, he can't
What can he
dance.
do?
I don't know what this guy can do, but that's fallen flat on its face. And the pitching, as accordingly with the injuries and all that, he doesn't handle pitchers well. And everything that the Guardians do is part of a formula. And they've got more pitchers coming up in the pipeline. We just don't have anybody who can hit the baseball in the pipeline. They believe that they're just going to keep grabbing pitchers and bringing good young pitchers. And Bybee, the guy they brought up, he's looking pretty good. He wasn't so good in his last outing, but he's looked pretty good. And Logan Allen has looked pretty good. And, for guys who are first-time players, and they have another guy down there who's moving up faster than fast. And he was like their recent 2023 pick. I forget the pitcher's name. But, a lot of pitchers in the pipeline, but we don't have any help. There's nobody in the organization. I say, get Bo Naylor's ass up here because he can't be worse than Zunino. He can't be.
Crash Davis, get him back.
Now, here's another thing. Why the Cavs' future success hinges on one player's evolution, and there it is, of course.
Evan Mobley.
And
see, how did I know that?
Because it's the same story over and over and over again.
Story, yes.
If I look at Evan Mobley next year, and he's the same weight as he was this year and the year before, then I'm just going to say, fuck him.
The same thing's going to happen, yeah.
The same thing, he's going to get pushed around, man.
He's been figured out.
Well, it's not that. You have to stay one step ahead. When LeBron came into the league, his athleticism was way off the boards.
Oh.
But he was a 42% shooter from the field.
Yeah.
So you let, LeBron shoot his stupid fadeaways from the corner. And, he was cockeyed when he was shooting the ball when he was young. And so he just went to work. He not only did he improve his body and his strength, but he started finding his spots on the floor so that he had go-to shots that he was really deadly at. And once if you have a fadeaway, people have to respect that shot, especially if you have the length that Mobley does. You develop a fadeaway shot like Nowitzki had, but with the athleticism of Evan Mobley, you take that half a step back to go into the fade and just blow by your guy. You can be dangerous, and that's just with one move, with one weapon, threat. Yeah. But he doesn't have a fadeaway. He doesn't have a three-point shot. He doesn't have the strength to muscle it in down low. Right now, he's lacking the basic moves that he can build,
Yeah, he threw up far too many line drives into the basket thinking that they were going to go in, and they just went.
He looked like a guy whose legs were tired and who was just beat because, he had no lift. He had no air under his shot, like you just said, and he wasn't rebounding. He wasn't doing the things that he was supposed to do, and he was getting pushed around. The difference is he still looked like he was trying. He was just tired, and Jared Allen wasn't trying.
Yeah.
So... so the hopes of the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'll tell you what they rest on, and that's getting a head coach in there who seriously knows how to be taken seriously by his players, because these guys are going to go off the tracks. And just like we're seeing, look what's happened to Ja Morant since we last spoke to you. He was back, and he wave your gun, this guy. This guy could be anywhere, and he'd just pull out a gun and start waving it around.
Somebody will shoot him one day, and that's not like a hard prediction to make.
And unlike him, they won't miss.
Yeah.
So, and And then look at this, the Cavs' path to improvement, not only Evan Mobley, but, a lot's depending on whether 32-year-old Ricky Rubio regains his previous form. You can be waiting for that, folks. I mean, 2 knee replacements. Come on.
The poor guy, he needs a rest home. Please leave him alone.
It's like, please. What you saw in the playoffs is that everybody was amped up and the game was moving more physically, and the Cavaliers simply couldn't adjust to it. And that's because Bickerstaff didn't prepare him, or they just blocked him out and didn't want to hear it, whatever.
Well, here's a question for you. Would you have Doc Rivers in?
Well, I don't think that that's the kind of coach, that, again, you've got to have, I think it's more than just the head coach. I think you got to have assistant coaches. I mean, you have Luke Walton. What the fuck does he know? I mean,
he can barely read, I think.
You've got to have, what was his father say? I can't even do him anymore. I haven't heard him speak in such a long time. God, I can hear it in my head, but it won't come out of my mouth. But Luke Walton is a guy who, just kind of stands stoically in the sidelines, and he was a former player. So, what you need is a guy whose voice is listened to, paid, the guy you don't want. Yeah, right. I mean, you don't want, Beeline, and you don't want, who is the Jewish guy they brought over from the Euro League?
Oh God. Oh.
Why can't David Blatt? Was that his name?
David Blatt. Yeah, David Blatt. Well done.
I mean, that's what you don't want, I remember back in the Euro League, this was the shit that worked. And it's an immediate tune out. It's like Euro League. Get the fuck out of here.
I think you're on to something though. There's probably some guy coaching in the Euro League that would actually be a decent NBA coach. Maybe and probably not take that much money. That might be an idea for.
Well, the problem with the Euro League is none of the players are like, no, you're in the Euro League for a reason, because that's where we didn't want to end up. It's a bad move from the get go. But I think that it's really important to have people. If you want Evan Mobley to become bigger, stronger, and more multifaceted, then what you need to do is you've got to hire somebody who's a big man who would have a skill set that could say to him, this is what you need to learn how to do in this league. And you got to surround him with people who are there to help. And then if he doesn't do it, it's because he just doesn't have the drive and desire. So what difference does it make?
Yeah, well, I don't think there's like these Wes Unseld kind of coaches out there anymore or around. But yeah, I mean, that's who Mobley should be turning into. But anyway.
Yeah, my final story before I get the hell out of here. I've been going on for 58 minutes. This is awesome.
Yeah, I came in late, so I'll have to go back and see what you talked about earlier.
It's just all fun stuff, So the Guardians are playing now, and I don't know whether they're winning or losing, but I guarantee you they won't score more than 3 runs in the game. Be that as it may, you might have seen that Josh Naylor, who has won a number of games with home runs this year, although he's still only hitting .218, got hurt. And it's like,
no,
a leg thing, but he'll be back. He's missing today's game, but he'll be back. But, it's like, God, he's had leg problems. Like, lose fucking weight. I mean, look, I'm not a professional athlete. I know that's not the message that should be coming out of my mouth. I understand that. I'm a fat fuck. Okay.
You make more fun of obese people than I do. So there you go.
Yeah. But I mean, here's the truth. I'm not trying to make my living by my body being able to hold up in an athletic endeavor.
Correct.
I mean, if that's what your chosen profession is, you're putting way too much weight on your lower extremities when you're playing with a fucking big belly around you. And Naylor, there's no reason except that he's not taking care of his body. And he's a guy who's 30 years old. And when he's 30, he'll be done. In professional sports today, the seasons last so long and the demands are rigorous, and you see it all over. In the NBA, it's really apparent when a guy hits 30. I mean, look at Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a guy who used to be a pretty fearsome player, and he just didn't do the little things to keep his body up. And this is the kind of thing. Oh, the Guardians are tied 1-1 in the middle of the sixth. Who's pitching, Rick? Who's pitching? Who's held the opposition to one run? Let's give him kudos. Not that it matters, mind you. At any rate, yeah, when I saw Josh Naylor had another little leg injury, it's like, well, here we go again. There's an obvious explanation. All right. I just wanted to let everyone know I'm still alive and breathing and ticking. I can still do a program without even so much as rehearsing it and without even reading through the stories particularly. I didn't even sight read these things. Oh, Logan Allen. He's really looking good. Yeah. A nice lefty. He and Bybee both. I like Bybee's breaking ball. And you know, if they had a better receiver, if they had a better catcher to call the game and work the composure of the young pitcher, I think they'd both be better off. I really do.
Well, that's so, you know, somebody should look up his wins against average because it's got to be like -3 or something. Shocking.
And you know, and this is the best that Francona can do with this group. Yeah. And you know, his health is going to get worse just because he's going to pull a Ty Lue. He's going to say, "Oh, that's it for me," you know.
Yeah,
you sad, know, this is what I'm more like the team that I coach for.
Yeah, this is the closest thing to a Maniac the
team, man.
It is. It totally is.
It's just fortunate that the teams who are in our division are equally inept in their own ways. So, thanks everybody for tuning in to this impromptu Moohead Radio podcast. Nothing tomorrow because I have some important stuff that has to be taken care of again, and I have a very important situation with a refrigerator. If you didn't hear it, go back to the beginning of the show.
It's not Terry Pluto related.
Refrigerator delivery time, yeah. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and I'll be back again on Monday, God willing, assuming everything just remains settled and I keep making my progress. But thanks for watching, and until next time, hasta la vista, pasture heads. Good night.
Boo!